My name is Floyd Harrison, 65 years old, with more battle scars than I ever earned in my youth. The worst one is still fresh above my right eye where the crystal whiskey glass shattered against my face. My son-in-law Jeffrey had demanded another drink at our family dinner. When I refused, saying he had enough, his face twisted with rage. He threw that glass straight at me, screaming words I never thought I would hear in my own home. If you want to know what happened next, let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like button and subscribe to follow my journey to protecting my family. Life has a funny way of testing you when you least expect it. After 38 years teaching high school English, I retired to what I thought would be peaceful golden years. My wife Martha and I had plans to travel across the country in an RV, visit the Grand Canyon, see the fall colors in New England. We had it all mapped out. Then cancer took her 5 years ago, quick and merciless, leaving me alone in our 3-bedroom house filled with 4 decades of memories. My daughter Amanda became my world after that. She was always brilliant, creative, with a spark in her eyes just like her mother. At 28, she had built a respectable career teaching art at the local community college, helping others find their creative voice. I was so proud watching her bloom into this independent, compassionate woman who could light up any room with her smile. Every Sunday, we would meet for breakfast at Darby's Diner downtown, sharing stories over pancakes and coffee. Those mornings kept me going after Martha passed. 2 years ago, Amanda mentioned a new man in her life, Jeffrey Pearson. She described him as smart, ambitious, working in investment banking at some prestigious firm downtown. I remember feeling both protective and hopeful. Maybe this would be someone worthy of my daughter's heart. The first time I met Jeffrey was at Lorenzo's, an upscale Italian restaurant with white tablecloths and waiters in bow ties. He arrived in a tailored suit, firm handshake, perfect white teeth when he smiled. Throughout dinner, he was attentive to Amanda, asking me thoughtful questions about my teaching career, complimenting my choice of wine. On the surface, Jeffrey Pearson seemed like the perfect gentleman any father would approve of. But there was a moment, just one small moment, that planted a seed of doubt in my mind. Amanda excused herself to use the restroom, and in those brief minutes alone with Jeffrey, something changed. The waiter approached to refill our water glasses and accidentally spilled a few drops on the table. Nothing major, barely noticeable. But Jeffrey's expression shifted instantly. His eyes narrowed, voice lowered to a harsh whisper as he said to the young waiter, "Are you blind or just incompetent? Clean it properly." The poor kid, probably working his way through college, turned red with embarrassment, quickly wiping up the small spill with a napkin. When Amanda returned, Jeffrey was all smiles again. But I had seen something different. That flash of contempt, the immediate need to establish dominance over someone he considered beneath him. I told myself perhaps he was just having a bad day, that we all have moments we are not proud of. Their relationship progressed rapidly. Within 6 months, Amanda was showing me an engagement ring, a diamond so large it seemed to weigh down her delicate finger. The wedding was planned for just 3 months later, at an exclusive venue overlooking the bay. Everything felt rushed. I tried to have a gentle conversation with Amanda about taking things slowly, really getting to know someone before marriage. She interpreted my concerns as resistance to change, fear of losing her. Perhaps there was some truth to that. After losing Martha, the thought of Amanda moving further away from me was painful, but there was more to it. That moment with the waiter kept replaying in my mind. "Dad, Jeffrey makes me happy. Isn't that what matters?" she had said, her eyes pleading for my blessing. What could I say to that? I wanted her happiness more than anything. So I smiled, hugged her tight, and kept my reservations to myself. The biggest mistake of my life. The wedding was extravagant, clearly designed to impress. 200 guests, many I had never met, elaborate flower arrangements, a 7-tier cake. I walked Amanda down the aisle, trying to focus on her radiant smile rather than the growing discomfort in my gut. During his vows, Jeffrey looked directly at Amanda with such intensity that many guests commented later how romantic it was. But standing just feet away, I saw something different in his gaze. It was not love. It was possession, After the honeymoon in Bali, I began noticing subtle changes in my Sunday breakfasts with Amanda. She checked her phone constantly, texting Jeffrey to let him know where she was, when she would be home. She seemed tired, her usual animated storytelling replaced with brief, rehearsed accounts of their week. Sometimes she would glance at her watch, explaining that Jeffrey was expecting her back by a certain time. 3 months after the wedding, Amanda called to cancel our breakfast tradition. Jeffrey had started a weekend investment group that met Sunday mornings, and he wanted her there to network with the wives. Our breakfasts became monthly, then occasional, then rare special occasions. When I did see Amanda, Jeffrey was always present, his arm around her shoulders in what looked to others like affection, but to me felt like restraint. He would interrupt her stories, correcting minor details, speaking over her until she eventually stopped talking altogether. My vibrant daughter was fading before my eyes, and I felt completely powerless to stop it. About 6 months into their marriage, Amanda called me with news that should have been exciting. Jeffrey had been so successful at work that he suggested she could quit her teaching position. He says we have more than enough money, and this way I can focus on making our house perfect, she explained, her voice lacking the enthusiasm such a statement should carry. I knew how much she loved teaching, how her students looked forward to her classes. Is that what you want, sweetheart? I asked carefully. A pause. Jeffrey thinks it is best. He says teaching art is more of a hobby than a real career anyway. That statement was not from my daughter. Those were his words coming through her mouth. I could feel it. 2 weeks later, she had resigned from the college. Her art supplies, once scattered around her apartment in creative chaos, were now neatly packed away in storage boxes in their garage. Jeffrey had converted what was supposed to be her studio in their new house into his home office instead. During one of my visits to their home, I excused myself to use the bathroom. On the way back, I took a wrong turn down the hallway and opened what I thought was the door back to the living room. Instead, I found myself in Jeffrey's office. I was about to leave when something caught my eye. Behind his desk, tucked in the bottom drawer that had been left partially open, was a bottle of whiskey. Not unusual in itself, except it was half empty and hidden beneath some folders, as if meant to be concealed. As the months passed, I began noticing other signs. Jeffrey's speech would sometimes slur slightly during evening phone calls. At family gatherings, his consumption of alcohol seemed excessive, yet he never appeared outwardly drunk the way most people would. Instead, he became more controlling, more critical, his natural filter dissolving just enough to let his true thoughts emerge. During Thanksgiving at my house, Jeffrey excused himself to the bathroom 4 times during dinner. Each time he returned, his eyes were slightly glassier, his comments more cutting. He criticized everything from my mashed potatoes to the football game playing in the background. Amanda kept giving me apologetic looks across the table, mouthing sorry when he wasn't looking. After dinner, while Amanda helped me in the kitchen, Jeffrey disappeared again. Concerned, I went looking for him and found him in my study, rummaging through my liquor cabinet. He had already emptied my good bourbon and was working on a bottle of scotch I had been saving for special occasions. Jeffrey, I said cautiously, we have plenty of drinks in the dining room if you are thirsty. He turned, startled, then smoothed his expression into a practiced smile. Just looking for something with a bit more character, Floyd. This is nice. He held up my 30-year-old scotch. Mind if I take it home? Seems wasted on someone with your simpler tastes. Without waiting for an answer, he tucked the bottle under his arm and brushed past me. I stood there, stunned by the blatant disrespect, the territorial marking of dominance in my own home. The next day, I called Amanda, determined to have an honest conversation. Honey, I am concerned about Jeffrey's drinking. Have you noticed anything? What are you talking about, Dad? Her voice was defensive, too quick to respond. Jeffrey just appreciates fine liquor. He is a connoisseur. Amanda, there is a difference between appreciation and dependency. I found him going through my liquor cabinet without permission. He told me you offered him that scotch as a gift, she countered. Are you going back on that now? The lie was so blatant it left me speechless for a moment. That is not what happened. I finally said. I think you are just looking for problems, Dad. You have never given Jeffrey a fair chance. Her voice was trembling. I have to go now. The call ended, and I sat with the phone in my hand, a terrible helplessness washing over me. She was choosing to believe his lies rather than confront the truth. I wondered what other lies he had told her about me, about others. In the coming months, I tried to maintain contact without pushing the issue of Jeffrey's drinking. I invited them for dinner, offered to help with house projects, suggested movies we could see together. Jeffrey always had an excuse why they couldn't come, or he would agree then cancel at the last minute. The few times they did visit, I could smell alcohol on his breath when they arrived, no matter the time of day. Then came the most concerning sign of all. It was early spring, and Amanda had finally agreed to meet me for lunch, just the two of us. When she reached across the table for the breadbasket, her sleeve rode up, revealing a cluster of bruises on her wrist. Distinctive finger marks pressed into her skin. I froze, my eyes fixed on those purple marks. Amanda, what happened to your arm? She quickly pulled her sleeve down, face flushing. Nothing. I bumped into the doorframe moving furniture. Furniture does not leave finger-shaped bruises. We both knew it. Amanda, if Jeffrey is hurting you, stop it, Dad. Her voice was sharp, eyes darting around the restaurant to see if anyone heard. Jeffrey would never hurt me. You just refuse to see any good in him. I tried a different approach. I am worried about his drinking, honey. Even if he is not hurting you intentionally, alcohol can make people unpredictable, dangerous. He is under a lot of stress at work, she insisted. The market is volatile. His clients are demanding. He just needs to unwind sometimes. The excuses, the defensive posture, the hidden bruises. I had seen enough domestic violence cases during my years teaching to recognize the signs. My daughter was being abused, and I felt utterly powerless to help her. That night, I called my old friend Tony, who had retired from the police force a few years before me. Without mentioning names, I described the situation, asked for advice. It is a tough spot, Tony admitted. Unless she is willing to report it herself, there is not much the authorities can do. If you push too hard, you might just isolate her more, which is exactly what the abuser wants. So what can I do? Just watch this happen. Document everything. Take photos of injuries if you can do so without making her uncomfortable. Keep a record of incidents, dates, times, and most importantly, keep the door open. Make sure she knows she has a safe place to go when she is ready to leave. Because statistically, Floyd, she will need to leave about 7 times before it sticks. 7 times. The thought of my daughter enduring this cycle 7 times before finding freedom was unbearable. As spring turned to summer, Jeffrey's behavior worsened. When they visited, he would arrive already intoxicated, making barely veiled insults about my home, my retirement, my widower status. He would bring his own bottle of whiskey, drinking steadily throughout the visit while Amanda watched with anxious eyes, trying to maintain conversation as if nothing was wrong. I started taking Tony's advice, keeping a journal of every concerning incident, every sign of physical or emotional abuse I witnessed. I read books on alcoholism and domestic violence, joined an online support group for family members of alcoholics. I was preparing for a battle I did not yet know how to fight. The call came on a Tuesday morning in late September. I was in my garden, pruning the rose bushes Martha had planted years ago, when my phone rang. It was Amanda, her voice containing an excitement I had not heard in months. "Dad, I have some news," she said. "Can you sit down?" I lowered myself onto the garden bench, heart racing with both hope and fear. "I am sitting, sweetheart. What is it?" "I am pregnant, 2 months along. You are going to be a grandfather." The world seemed to shift on its axis. A grandchild. New life. For a moment, pure joy flooded through me, pushing aside all concerns. Then reality crashed back. My daughter was having a baby with an alcoholic, potentially abusive man. My future grandchild would be born into a home where tension and fear were daily companions. "That is wonderful news, Amanda," I managed, trying to keep my voice steady, positive. "How are you feeling?" A little morning sickness, but otherwise good. Jeffrey is thrilled. He has already started talking about private schools and college funds. Of course he had. Status symbols. Future bragging rights. I wondered if he had considered cutting back on his drinking for the health and safety of his wife and unborn child. I would love to celebrate with you both, I said. How about dinner at my place tomorrow night? I will cook something special. To my surprise, she agreed immediately. That would be wonderful, Dad. Jeffrey has a meeting until 6, but we could come by around 7? Perfect. I will make your favorite pot roast. After we hung up, I sat in the garden for a long time, emotions warring inside me. A grandchild should be an uncomplicated joy. Instead, I felt a terrible responsibility weighing on me. This baby would change everything, making Amanda even more vulnerable, more dependent on Jeffrey, more trapped. I spent the rest of the day cleaning the house from top to bottom, as if preparing for inspection. The next morning, I drove to 3 different stores gathering ingredients for the perfect meal. Pot roast had been our family comfort food since Amanda was little. Martha's recipe, with carrots, potatoes, and her secret blend of herbs and spices, I wanted everything to be perfect. A reminder of happier times, of family and love and safety. I set the dining table with our best china, the set Martha and I had received as a wedding gift 40 years ago. Crystal water glasses, polished silver, linen napkins, fresh flowers from my garden as a centerpiece. I even dug out the old record player and put on some soft jazz, Amanda's favorite. By 6:30, everything was ready. The pot roast was filling the house with its rich aroma, dinner rolls warming in the oven, a berry cobbler cooling on the counter for dessert. I had even prepared a special sparkling cider toast for Amanda instead of wine. At 7:15, they still had not arrived. I called Amanda but got her voicemail. By 7:30, I was pacing the kitchen, dinner keeping warm in the oven, worry growing with each passing minute. They finally arrived at 7:45. Amanda entered first, apologizing profusely. Jeffrey's meeting ran late, and then traffic was terrible. I am so sorry, Dad. Jeffrey followed behind her, not bothering with apologies. His tie was loosened, top button undone, the unmistakable smell of whiskey on his breath. He had clearly stopped for drinks after his meeting. Floyd, he acknowledged with a nod, then headed straight for my liquor cabinet without being invited. Got any decent scotch? That meeting drained me dry. Amanda shot me a pleading look. Don't make a scene. Not tonight. I swallowed my irritation and nodded. Help yourself, Jeffrey. Dinner is ready whenever you are. He poured himself a generous glass of my best whiskey, taking a long sip before sauntering to the table. Amanda helped me bring out the food, whispering thank you as we worked side by side in the kitchen. Everything okay? I asked quietly, noting the shadows under her eyes despite her makeup. Everything is fine, Dad. Please, let us just have a nice dinner. This is supposed to be a celebration. I nodded, squeezing her hand gently before carrying the pot roast to the dining room. Jeffrey was already on his second glass of whiskey, scrolling through his phone with disinterest. Smells great, Floyd, he said without looking up. Amanda told me you were quite the chef. Let us see if reality lives up to the hype. I bit my tongue and focused on serving the meal. Amanda was right. This was supposed to be a celebration. I would not let him ruin it. As we settled at the table, I raised my glass. To Amanda and the new life she is bringing into this world, and to becoming a family of 3. Amanda smiled tearfully, touching her glass of sparkling cider to mine. Jeffrey knocked back half his whiskey before joining the toast. To my son, he declared confidently. The future Pearson heir. We do not know if it is a boy or girl yet, Amanda corrected gently. Jeffrey shrugged. First one is always a boy. Pearsons produce sons first, then daughters if necessary. Been that way for generations. I caught Amanda's eye, saw the slight wince she tried to hide. How many of these arbitrary pronouncements did she endure daily? How many little corrections and assumptions? Dinner progressed with forced pleasantness. I asked about the pregnancy, doctor's visits, whether they had thought about names. Amanda answered enthusiastically, while Jeffrey continued to drink. occasionally interrupting with his opinions on proper child-caring or to dismiss Amanda's ideas as typical first-time mother nonsense. By the time we finished the main course, Jeffrey had emptied my bottle of whiskey and was growing increasingly agitated. His comments became more pointed, more personal. "This house is quite outdated, Floyd. Ever think about selling? Cannot be easy for an old man to maintain all by himself. The school district here is mediocre at best. Definitely not where my child will be educated. Teaching English for 38 years? No ambition to become principal? Administration? Seems like a waste of potential." Each barb was delivered with a smile that did not reach his eyes, daring me to react. I maintained my composure, reminding myself that this was about Amanda and the baby, not my wounded pride. When I brought out dessert, Jeffrey pushed his chair back from the table. "More whiskey, Floyd. The good stuff this time, not that bottom-shelf garbage." I hesitated. "I think we are out, Jeffrey, but I have some excellent coffee to go with dessert." His eyes narrowed. "I saw another bottle in your cabinet. The Macallan, 18-year. Bring that out." The Macallan had been a retirement gift from my fellow teachers, something I had been saving for a truly special occasion, but it was not worth fighting over. I nodded and went to retrieve it, feeling a burning resentment building in my chest. The cobbler sat untouched on the table as I returned with the bottle of Macallan. Jeffrey's eyes lit up at the sight of it, like a predator spotting prey. I poured him a modest amount, hoping to pace his consumption. He immediately drained it and pushed the glass toward me for a refill. "Another," he demanded, not even pretending to ask politely anymore. I reluctantly poured again, a bit more this time, hoping it would satisfy him. Amanda was picking at her cobbler, her earlier excitement completely diminished. The soft jazz playing in the background felt jarring now against the tense atmosphere. "So, Amanda tells me you have been asking a lot of questions about our marriage," Jeffrey said suddenly, swirling the amber liquid in his glass. "Seems you think I am not treating your little girl right." Amanda's head snapped up. "Jeffrey, I never said that." "You did not have to say it, babe. I can read between the lines." He turned back to me. "What is it, Floyd? Do not think I am good enough for your precious daughter. Think she married beneath her?" "I think my daughter deserves to be happy and respected," I replied evenly, trying to keep my voice calm. "That is all any father wants." Jeffrey laughed, a harsh sound with no humor. "Respect is earned, old man. Something you might have taught her if you were not so busy coddling her. Women need a firm hand, structure, discipline. Martha must have been quite the doormat to put up with your soft approach for 40 years. My hands clenched under the table at the mention of my late wife's name. Amanda gasped softly. "Dad, I am so sorry," she whispered, looking mortified. "It is okay, Amanda," I assured her, though it was anything but okay. I turned to Jeffrey. "I think you have had enough to drink for tonight. Maybe we should call it an evening." Jeffrey leaned forward, elbows on my best tablecloth. "I will decide when I have had enough. Pour me another." "No," I said firmly. "I think it is time you and Amanda headed home. You have had too much already." His face darkened, a vein pulsing in his forehead. "Pour me another now." Amanda placed a hand on his arm. "Jeffrey, please, let us just go home. I am feeling tired anyway." He shook her hand off roughly. "Stay out of this, Amanda. Your father and I are having a conversation." He turned back to me, holding out his empty glass. "One more time, Floyd. Pour me another drink." I stood my ground. "No, Jeffrey. Not in my house. Not when you are speaking to me and my daughter this way." What happened next seemed to unfold in slow motion. Jeffrey's face contorted with rage. He stood up so quickly his chair toppled backward with a crash. Before I could react, he hurled his empty whiskey glass directly at my face. Pain exploded above my right eye as the crystal shattered against my skin. Warm blood immediately began trickling down my face. Amanda screamed, jumping to her feet. "Dad!" She rushed to my side, grabbing a napkin to press against the wound. Jeffrey stood breathing heavily, pointing at me with a shaking finger. "Servants must obey their masters. That is what you are, Floyd. A servant in your daughter's life. Nothing more. You will do as I say when I say it." The room fell silent except for Amanda's quiet sobs as she tended to my bleeding forehead. I could feel glass fragments embedded in my skin, the cut deep and painful. "Get out of my house," I said, my voice low but steady. "Now," Jeffrey sneered, grabbing Amanda's arm roughly. "We are leaving. Come on, Amanda." She hesitated, looking at my injury with concern. "Dad needs medical attention. I cannot just leave him like this. He is a grown man. He can drive himself to the emergency room." Jeffrey tightened his grip on her arm. I said, "We are leaving." I could see the conflict in her eyes, the fear battling with concern for me. "Go, Amanda," I said gently. "I will be fine. Please, just go with him now, and call me tomorrow." She gave me one last anguished look before Jeffrey practically dragged her toward the door. I heard him berating her all the way to their car, blaming her for the incident, for taking my side against him. The car engine roared to life, tires squealing as they pulled away from my house, leaving me standing in my dining room, blood dripping onto Martha's best tablecloth, surrounded by the remnants of what was supposed to be a celebration. I went to the bathroom to examine the damage. The cut was deep, about an inch long above my right eyebrow. Several small glass fragments were embedded in the wound. It would need stitches, but first, I had to make a decision about what I was going to do next. As I cleaned the wound as best I could, pressing a towel against it to slow the bleeding, I thought about my daughter and unborn grandchild. The fear in Amanda's eyes was not just for me. It was the look of someone trapped, someone who had learned that resistance only made things worse. If Jeffrey would throw a glass at her father's face, what would he do to her behind closed doors, especially with alcohol fueling his rage? I could not wait anymore. I could not stand by and hope things would get better. Tonight had shown me exactly who Jeffrey Pearson was, without any pretense or social mask. He was dangerous, and my daughter and grandchild were not safe with him. I picked up my phone and made a call. "Floyd, Jesus, what happened to your forehead?" Tony asked, ushering me into his living room at nearly 11 at night. His wife Diane, a retired nurse, was already getting out their first aid kit. "Jeffrey happened," I said grimly, allowing Diane to guide me to a chair where she could examine the wound. I winced as she cleaned it with antiseptic. "This needs stitches, Floyd," she said. "We should take you to the ER. Soon," I promised. "But first, I need advice." While Diane worked on removing the small glass fragments from my skin, I told Tony everything. The controlling behavior, the hidden alcohol, the bruises on Amanda's arm, and finally, tonight's violent outburst. Tony listened without interrupting, his expression growing increasingly grave. "You need to document this," he said finally. "Take photos of your injury. Write down exactly what happened while it is fresh in your mind. Did you keep the broken glass?" I had not thought of that. "No, I cleaned it up before coming here." "That is okay. The medical report from the ER will help establish what happened." Tony leaned forward. "Floyd, this is serious. Throwing a glass at someone's face could be charged as assault with a deadly weapon. Glass can cause permanent damage to eyes, facial nerves. I do not want to press charges," I said quickly. "At least not yet. Amanda is pregnant. If Jeffrey goes to jail, she will blame me. I will lose any chance of helping her." "Then what do you want to do?" Tony asked. I took a deep breath. "I need to get her out of that house, away from him. But she has to want to leave. I cannot force her." "Classic abuse situation," Diane commented, applying a butterfly bandage to hold my wound together until we could get to the hospital. "She is probably terrified of him, but also convinced she can fix him, or that she somehow deserves the treatment." My phone buzzed with a text message. "Amanda, Dad, I am so sorry about tonight. Jeffrey feels terrible about what happened. He has been under so much stress at work. Please do not hate him. Love you." I showed the message to Tony and Diane. "See? The excuses have already started." Tony sighed. "It is the cycle of abuse. Explosion followed by remorse and promises to change, then tension builds, and it happens all over again. With a baby coming, the stakes just got a lot higher." So what do I do? I asked, feeling helpless. Tony thought for a moment. First, we need evidence. Did Jeffrey ever send threatening texts, emails, voicemails? I shook my head. He is too smart for that. He is always careful about what he puts in writing. Smart, but arrogant, Tony observed. That type always thinks they are untouchable. We can use that against him. He paced the room, thinking, here is what we do. We build a case. Quietly, we get Amanda to see the reality of her situation without pushing her away. Diane finished bandaging my forehead. Floyd needs the hospital first. Then we can strategize. 3 hours and 6 stitches later, I was back at Tony's kitchen table with an official medical report documenting the laceration from thrown glass object and painkillers that I refused to take. I needed a clear head. Tony had made some calls while I was at the hospital. He pushed a folder toward me. Jeffrey David Pearson, 34, Senior Investment Manager at Whitaker Financial. 2 previous complaints from ex-girlfriends, both dropped before charges were filed. 1 DUI 3 years ago, reduced to reckless driving through some expensive legal maneuvering. I stared at the report in disbelief. How did you get this? I still have friends on the force, Tony said simply. Nothing here is inadmissible if it comes to that. Public records, just difficult for civilians to access. The pattern was clear. Jeffrey had done this before. The women had dropped charges, probably intimidated or paid off. His drinking problem had been documented but minimized through legal connections. He was practiced at this game. There is more, Tony continued. His father, David Pearson, had 3 domestic violence calls to their family home when Jeffrey was growing up. No charges filed, but the pattern was established early. The cycle continues, Diane murmured, setting down 3 cups of coffee. So what is our plan? I asked. First, you need a safe place for Amanda to go when she is ready to leave, Tony explained. Your house is the first place Jeffrey will look. She can stay here, Diane offered immediately. We have the spare bedroom, and I can help with prenatal care. Next, we need to document everything, Tony continued. Every interaction, every text, every phone call. If Amanda mentions anything about his behavior, write it down with the date and time. What about legal protection? I asked. For that, we need Amanda on board, Tony said. A restraining order requires her participation, but we can prepare everything so it is ready when she makes that decision. I nodded, feeling a plan coming together. And my grandchild, how do we protect them? 1 step at a time, Tony advised. Get Amanda safe first. The pregnancy actually gives us an advantage in court if it comes to that. Judges take a very dim view of domestic violence involving pregnant women. We stayed up until dawn, mapping out contingencies, preparing for various scenarios. I made lists of what Amanda would need from their house when the time came. Diane contacted a friend who worked with a domestic violence shelter to get professional advice. Tony reached out to a lawyer who specialized in family protection cases. By the time I left Tony's house the next morning, I had a plan, a support network, and a renewed sense of purpose. The helplessness I had felt watching Jeffrey drag my daughter from my dining room had been replaced with determination. I would not let him hurt her or my grandchild again. I drove home to shower and change clothes. As I passed Jeffrey and Amanda's neighborhood, a sudden impulse struck me. I needed to check on her, to see with my own eyes that she was okay after last night. I turned onto their street, parking a few houses away to avoid being immediately noticed. Their house was quiet. Jeffrey's expensive car gone from the driveway, probably at work, maintaining the successful facade that had fooled so many people. I approached cautiously and rang the doorbell. Amanda opened the door, her eyes widening at the sight of my bandaged forehead. Dad, what are you doing here? Jeffrey just left for work, but he might come back if he forgot something. The fear in her voice broke my heart. She was afraid of her husband returning home and finding her father there. What kind of marriage was that? I just needed to see that you are okay, I said. Can I come in for a minute? She hesitated, then nodded, quickly ushering me inside and closing the door. In the living room, I could see evidence of another fight. A broken vase, pillows on the floor, a small dent in the wall. What happened after you left my house? I asked gently. Amanda's eyes filled with tears. It was nothing. Just a little argument. Jeffrey feels terrible about what happened at your place. He was going to call you today to apologize. Amanda, I took her hands in mine. This is not nothing. This is not normal. You know that, right? She pulled away, defensive. Every couple fights, Dad. You and Mom had arguments too. Your mother and I never threw things at each other. We never put each other in the hospital. We never made each other afraid. I gestured to the room around us. This is not fighting, Amanda. This is abuse. Her face crumpled, tears flowing freely now. He said he will stop drinking. He promised. With the baby coming, he knows he needs to change. The familiar refrain of the abused. He will change. Things will get better. Just one more chance. Amanda, listen to me. I love you more than anything in this world. I would never try to take away something that makes you happy, but I am terrified for you and for my grandchild. I took a deep breath. When you are ready, there is a place you can go. People who will help. You do not have to do this alone. She wiped at her tears. I cannot leave him, Dad. He is the father of my baby. We are a family now. Family does not hurt family, I said softly. Please, just promise me one thing. If things get worse, if you ever feel unsafe, you will call me, day or night. Promise me. She nodded reluctantly. I promise. It was a small victory, but it was something. A crack in the wall of denial she had built around herself. I hugged her gently, memorizing the feel of her in my arms, not knowing when I would have this chance again. I have to go, she said nervously, checking the time. Jeffrey sometimes comes home for lunch. He cannot find you here. I left with a heavy heart but renewed determination. The next part of my plan would require timing, courage, and a bit of theatrical flair. Jeffrey Pearson had shown me his true face last night. Now it was time for him to see his own reflection in all its ugliness. I drove to a hardware store in the next town over, where no one would recognize me. I bought several items, a dozen small mirrors of various sizes, some heavy-duty adhesive, a roll of fishing line, and a motion-activated security light. Then I stopped at a photo printing kiosk and printed multiple copies of the photo Tony had taken of my injury, close-ups of the stitches, the bruising that was already developing around my eye. My plan was taking shape. Jeffrey Pearson was about to face a reckoning he would not soon forget. It took 3 days to put my plan in motion, 3 days of careful preparation, of waiting for the right moment. I had Tony help me install a small, inconspicuous camera in my living room to record any future interactions with Jeffrey. I filed a police report about the assault, not pressing charges yet but creating an official record. I spoke with Amanda daily, gentle conversations that never pushed too hard but kept the door open. On the 3rd night, Amanda called me in tears. He is on a business trip, she sobbed into the phone. Left this morning, coming back tomorrow night. He threw my prenatal vitamins in the garbage before he left, said I was wasting money on new age garbage. Dad, I am scared. This was the opportunity I had been waiting for. Pack a bag, I told her. Just essentials for a few days. I am coming to get you. I cannot leave, she protested weakly. He will be so angry. Amanda, listen to me. You do not have to decide anything permanent right now. Just come stay with me tonight. Get some rest. Clear your head, please. There was a long pause, then a shaky exhale. Okay, just for tonight. I picked her up 30 minutes later, her small suitcase and purse clutched tightly as if they contained all that remained of her independence. On the drive to my house, she was quiet, looking out the window with the lost expression of someone whose world has collapsed around them. At home, I showed her to the guest room, the one that had been her bedroom growing up. I had kept many of her things from childhood there, a sanctuary from a simpler time. She ran her fingers over her old bookshelf, the collection of seashells from family vacations, the stuffed bear she had slept with until she was 12. Get some sleep, I told her. Tomorrow, we can talk about what happens next. She nodded, sitting on the edge of the bed looking small and vulnerable. I am sorry about your head, Dad. I never thought he would do something like that. I know, sweetheart. It is not your fault. None of this is your fault. After she had settled in, I called Tony. She is here, I told him. Just for tonight, she says. But it is a start. Good, he replied. And Jeffrey? Business trip. Coming back tomorrow night. Perfect timing. Are you still planning to go ahead with it? I looked toward my daughter's room, thought of my grandchild growing inside her, of the future they deserved. Absolutely. It ends tomorrow. The next morning, I drove Amanda to her prenatal appointment, while Tony and Diane put the rest of our plan into action. I had given them a key to Jeffrey and Amanda's house, and they were setting up what we had started calling the reflection room. The doctor's appointment went well. The baby was healthy, strong heartbeat, all measurements normal. Amanda seemed to relax slightly hearing the good news, a genuine smile appearing for the first time in days as the doctor printed an ultrasound image for her. Would you like to know the sex? The doctor asked. Amanda hesitated, then nodded. Yes, it is a girl, the doctor announced with a smile, not the son Jeffrey had so confidently predicted. I wondered how he would have reacted to this news, what arbitrary disappointment he would have inflicted on Amanda for something neither of them controlled. After the appointment, I took Amanda to lunch, carefully steering the conversation toward her future. What do you want, sweetheart? Not what Jeffrey wants, not what you think you should want. What do you want for yourself and your daughter? She traced patterns in the condensation on her water glass, thinking, I want to teach again, she said finally. I miss my students, my art. I want my daughter to see me doing something I love, something that matters. You can have that, I told her. All of it. She looked up, a flicker of hope in her eyes. How? Jeffrey would never allow it. Jeffrey does not get to decide your life, Amanda. No one does but you. She was quiet for a long moment. He will never let me go, she whispered. You do not know how he gets when he is angry. I have some idea, I said, touching the bandage on my forehead. But there are ways to handle men like Jeffrey. Legal ways that protect you and your daughter. A restraining order? She asked skeptically. Dad, those are just pieces of paper. They do not stop bullets. The raw fear in her voice told me everything about what their home life had become. It is more than just a restraining order. There are domestic violence laws, custody arrangements that can keep him away from both of you. Tony has a friend who is a lawyer specializing in these cases. She has helped dozens of women in your situation. I would not even know where to start, Amanda said. I reached across the table, taking her hand. You already have. Coming with me last night was the first step. Everything else, we take one day at a time. After lunch, I took her back to my house, where Diane was waiting to keep her company. I told Amanda I had some errands to run but would be back for dinner. What I did not tell her was that those errands involved the final phase of our plan for Jeffrey Pearson. Tony was waiting for me in his car a block from Jeffrey and Amanda's house. All set, he reported. The room is ready. I nodded, a grim determination settling over me. And the other preparations? Police are on standby. I told them we have reason to believe a domestic disturbance might occur tonight at this address. They will respond immediately to any call. We waited in silence as afternoon faded to evening. According to Amanda, Jeffrey's flight was scheduled to land at 7, putting him home around 8. At 7:30, we saw his car turn onto the street. He parked in the driveway, briefcase in hand, moving with the confident stride of a man who believed the world existed to serve him. We gave him 15 minutes to get inside, discover Amanda was gone, and work himself into the expected rage. Then I called his cell phone. He answered on the second ring. Floyd, he said, his voice falsely pleasant. What a surprise. Hello, Jeffrey. I thought you should know that Amanda is with me. A moment of silence. Is she? And why would my wife be at your house instead of waiting for me at home after my business trip? I think you know why, Jeffrey. The question is, what happens now? His voice hardened. What happens now is you bring my wife home immediately. She is pregnant with my child, in case you have forgotten. My daughter is staying where she feels safe, I replied calmly. But I am at your house. I thought we should talk, man to man. That caught him off guard. You are at my house? Right now? In your bedroom, actually. Come upstairs, Jeffrey. I think you need to see something. I ended the call before he could respond. From my position in the master bedroom, I could hear his footsteps pounding up the stairs, fury in every step. Tony was waiting down the hall, out of sight but ready to intervene if necessary, the camera on his phone recording everything. The bedroom door flew open, and Jeffrey stormed in, face already flushed with anger. "What the hell do you think you are doing in my house?" he demanded. Then he stopped short, finally noticing what we had done to his bedroom. Mirrors covered every surface. Large mirrors on the walls, small mirrors hanging from the ceiling on fishing line, mirrors positioned on the dresser and nightstand. And on every mirror, we had taped photographs, photos of my injured face, copies of his previous domestic violence complaints, screenshots of text messages Amanda had sent me describing his behavior, a printout of his DUI report, his police record, his father's police record, all his sins, all his secrets, reflected back at him infinitely in the carefully positioned mirrors. In the center of the room, on the bed, lay a single ultrasound image, the daughter he had not wanted, the life he had already disappointed. Jeffrey stood frozen, surrounded by reflections of his true self from every angle, his mouth opened and closed, no words emerging. "This is who you are, Jeffrey," I said quietly. "This is what Amanda sees every day, what my granddaughter would grow up seeing. A man who cannot control his anger or his drinking. A man who hurts those weaker than himself to feel powerful. Get out of my house," he finally managed, voice trembling with rage. "Get out now or I will make you regret it." "More threats?" I smiled sadly. "That is all you have, is not it? But they do not work anymore. Amanda is safe. The police have been notified. There is a restraining order being processed as we speak. You cannot take my wife from me," he snarled, taking a step toward me. "You cannot take my child. I did not take them. You drove them away with your fists and your cruelty." I held up my phone, showing him that I was recording. "Every threat you make now is evidence, Jeffrey. Every step you take toward me is another charge." I saw the moment it registered in his eyes, the trap he had walked into. The careful construction of mirrors was not just theatrical but strategic, designed to disorient and confront. Each reflection showed him another facet of his failures, his violence, his weakness. "You planned this," he said accusingly. "I protected my family," I corrected him. "Something you should have been doing all along." His face contorted, rage battling with the realization that he was cornered. For a moment, I thought he might lunge at me anyway. Consequences be damned. Instead, he did something I had not anticipated. He began to cry, not gentle tears but harsh, ugly sobs that seemed torn from somewhere deep and broken. He sank to his knees among the reflecting glass, surrounded by evidence of his monstrosity. "I need help," he choked out. "I cannot stop drinking. I cannot stop getting angry. I am turning into my father." I felt no pity, only a cold certainty that this, too, was manipulation. "Yes, you need help, Jeffrey. Professional help. Away from my daughter and granddaughter while you get it." I stepped toward the door. "Amanda will be filing for divorce. The restraining order prohibits you from contacting her, coming to my house, or going to her workplace when she returns to teaching. You will be permitted supervised visitation with your daughter once she is born, contingent on your completion of alcohol treatment and anger management programs." His head snapped up. Tears abruptly stopped. "You cannot do this to me. I will fight you. I have money, connections." And there it was, the real Jeffrey, the mask of remorse discarded as quickly as it had been donned. I nodded to Tony, who stepped into the doorway beside me. "Jeffrey Pearson," Tony said formally. "I am making a citizen's arrest for the assault against Floyd Harrison on September 25th. The police are on their way." Jeffrey lunged then, all pretense gone, a roar of rage tearing from his throat as he charged toward us. But Tony was ready, sidestepping neatly and using Jeffrey's own momentum to take him down to the carpet. In seconds, Tony had him restrained, zip ties securing his wrists behind his back. Add resisting arrest and attempted assault to the charges, Tony said calmly as Jeffrey cursed and struggled beneath him. The police arrived 5 minutes later, taking Jeffrey into custody and documenting the scene we had created. One officer whistled low, looking around at the mirror gallery of evidence. "Never seen anything quite like this," he commented. "He needed to see himself clearly," I explained. "Maybe now he will." As the police car pulled away with Jeffrey in the back seat, Tony put a hand on my shoulder. "It is over," he said. "Amanda and the baby are safe." But I knew better. It was not over. It was just beginning. The long road of healing for my daughter, the legal battles ahead, the challenge of helping her rebuild her life and confidence. Still, we had taken the crucial first step. We had broken the cycle of abuse before my granddaughter could become part of it. I looked up at the night sky, thinking of Martha. "I kept our girl safe," I whispered to the stars. "We are bringing her home." 3 months have passed since that night of mirrors and revelations. The seasons have changed, autumn giving way to winter, bare branches outlined against gray skies. So much has changed in our lives as well, each day bringing new challenges and small victories. Amanda moved back into her childhood bedroom that night. When I returned home from Jeffrey's arrest, I found her and Diane sitting at the kitchen table, cups of tea between them, talking quietly. The moment I walked in, Amanda looked up with questioning eyes. "It is done," I told her simply. "Jeffrey has been arrested. He cannot hurt you anymore." The emotions that crossed her face were complex, a mixture of relief, grief, fear, and something like hope, fragile and new. She did not ask for details that night. She was not ready. Instead, she asked if she could stay, not just for a night or two, but until she could find her feet again. "This is your home for as long as you need it," I assured her. "Forever, if you want." The first weeks were the hardest. Jeffrey was released on bail pending trial, though the restraining order kept him away from our home and from Amanda. His lawyer contacted her immediately, alternating between threats and pleas for reconciliation. We documented every call, every message, building our case stronger with each attempt at contact. Amanda struggled with conflicting emotions, sometimes defending Jeffrey in one breath and condemning him in the next. The psychological bonds of abuse are not easily broken. There were nights I heard her crying in her room, mourning not the man Jeffrey was, but the man she had believed him to be, the life she had imagined they would have. I found her a therapist specializing in domestic abuse and pregnancy, a gentle woman named Dr. Elaine, who came to our house for the first few sessions when Amanda was too afraid to venture out. Gradually, those sessions helped Amanda understand the patterns of control and manipulation that had defined her marriage, helped her see that Jeffrey's behavior was never her fault, never something she could have fixed with enough love or patience or sacrifice. 6 weeks after Jeffrey's arrest, Amanda asked me to go with her to their house to collect her belongings. Tony came as well, along with a police officer to ensure Jeffrey stayed away. The house felt different in daylight, less imposing, just a structure of wood and plaster that had contained so much pain. The mirrors were gone from the bedroom, but their absence felt significant, as if the truth they reflected had permanently altered the space. Amanda moved efficiently, gathering her clothes, her jewelry, the few personal items Jeffrey had allowed her to keep. In her former art room, she paused, running her fingers over dusty supplies. "I stopped painting because he said it was childish," she said softly. "Can you believe that? I let him take away the thing I loved most." "You can paint again," I told her. "Anytime you want." She nodded, a new determination in her eyes. "I will, for myself and for my daughter." We converted my home office into a studio for her, setting up her easel by the window with the best light. The first time she picked up a brush again, her hands trembled. By the third painting, they were steady, confident strokes, bringing color and life to the canvas. The legal proceedings moved forward. Jeffrey hired an expensive lawyer, fought every charge, tried to paint himself as the victim of a vengeful father-in-law. But the evidence was overwhelming. My medical records, the recording of his threats the night of the mirror confrontation, testimony from neighbors who had heard fights through the walls of their home, Amanda's therapist documenting the psychological abuse. Even Jeffrey's previous girlfriends came forward, emboldened by Amanda's courage, sharing their own stories of violence and control. 2 months after his arrest, facing multiple charges and the prospect of significant jail time, Jeffrey accepted a plea deal. Guilty to assault charges, mandatory alcohol treatment, anger management, 3 years probation, and the restraining order made permanent. The divorce proceedings continued separately, with Amanda likely to receive full custody of their daughter. Through it all, Amanda's pregnancy progressed. Her body grew rounder as winter deepened, her face regaining some of the glow it had lost during her marriage. She returned to teaching part-time at the community college, just 1 evening class a week and beginning watercolors. But it was a start, a reclaiming of her identity beyond wife and victim and soon-to-be mother. The nursery took shape in the 3rd bedroom of my house, walls painted soft yellow, a crib built by Tony and me on weekends, a rocking chair that had been Martha's, refinished and reupholstered. Amanda spent hours there, folding tiny clothes, arranging stuffed animals, preparing for this new life that would soon join our healing household. Today marks exactly 3 months since Jeffrey threw that crystal glass at my face, the scar above my eye, a permanent reminder of how quickly violence can erupt, how vigilant we must be with those we love. The stitches are long gone, the wound healed into a thin white line that Amanda apologizes for whenever she notices me touching it absently. Stop apologizing, I tell her each time. This scar is not your burden to carry. It is a badge I wear proudly because it led to getting you and my granddaughter to safety. This morning, Amanda had her final ultrasound before delivery. The baby is healthy, positioned correctly, ready to make her entrance into the world in approximately 3 weeks. On the refrigerator, we have a calendar with the due date circled in red, each passing day marked with growing excitement. As I sit in my garden, watching Amanda paint on the back patio, her brush moving confidently across the canvas, her free hand resting on her rounded belly, I am struck by how resilience runs in families, how the capacity to begin again, to rebuild from ashes, passes from parent to child, an inheritance more valuable than money or property or status. The deepest lesson I have learned from these terrible months is that silence is the ally of abuse. I kept quiet when I first saw Jeffrey's true nature, choosing politeness over protection, hoping I was wrong instead of acting on my instincts. I will never make that mistake again. Love is not quiet in the face of danger. Love speaks up, stands firm, intervenes. My granddaughter will be born into a home where voices are raised in laughter, not anger, where alcohol is an occasional pleasure, not a controlling demon, where her mother paints beautiful things and teaches others to find their creativity, where her grandfather tells her stories and shows her how gentle and strong men can be, where respect is the foundation of every relationship. Jeffrey is a part of her genetic makeup, but he will not define her future. We have broken the cycle that began with his father and would have continued through him. My granddaughter will know her history, but she will not be bound by it. She will know that strength comes in many forms, sometimes in leaving, sometimes in starting over, always in choosing love over fear. As the sun begins to set, casting long shadows across the garden, Amanda calls to me from the patio. "Dad, come see what I painted today." I walk over to find a portrait taking shape on her canvas. It is me, sitting in the garden, face turned toward the light, the scar visible but not defining. There is peace in the expression she has captured, wisdom in the eyes, a quiet joy in the slight curve of the lips. "Is that how you see me?" I ask, genuinely moved by her perception. She nods, adding a touch of highlight to the silver in my painted hair. "This is how I have always seen you. Strong, patient, loving. I just forgot for a while." I place my hand on her shoulder, feeling the connection between us, stronger now than ever before. We both forgot some important things for a while, but we remembered in time. Amanda leans her head against my hand, brush pausing in its work. "What if I cannot be as strong as you, Dad? What if I make mistakes with her?" She looks down at her belly, at the daughter growing there. You will make mistakes, I tell her honestly. We all do. But you will make them with love, learn from them, try again. That is what parenting is. I am scared, she admits. Not of Jeffrey anymore, but of the responsibility, of raising her alone. You are not alone, I remind her. You have me, Tony and Diane, your friends at the college, your support group. You have a whole community holding you up. She smiles then, a genuine smile that reaches her eyes. We do not we? As night falls, we move inside to the warm kitchen, where soup simmers on the stove and fresh bread waits on the counter. This is what healing looks like in our house. Art being created, meals shared, plans made for tomorrow and next week and next year. Small steps forward, day by day, reclaiming joy as our natural state. The phone rings, and Amanda answers it. It is Tony, checking in as he does every evening. Their friendship has been one of the unexpected gifts of this difficult time, a bond formed through shared purpose and genuine care. I listen as she tells him about the ultrasound, about the doctor's prediction of an early delivery, about the painting she finished today. This is the family we have chosen, the connections that sustain us, not bound by blood or legal documents, but by something deeper, more enduring, by courage shown in dark moments, by hands extended when we stumble, by truth spoken when lies would be easier. As I watch my daughter laugh at something Tony says, her free hand cradling her belly where my granddaughter grows, I know with absolute certainty that we will be okay. Not perfect, not without struggles or tears or hard days ahead, but fundamentally, unshakably okay, because we have faced the worst and survived it, because we chose action over silence, protection over politeness, love over fear, and that, in the end, is the most profound lesson of all. What would you have done in my situation? Would you have confronted your child's abusive partner, or taken a different approach? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you or someone you know might benefit from hearing it, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support means the world to me, and together, perhaps we can help others find the courage to break free from toxic relationships. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, it is never too late to stand up for those you love.